Good. Hi, everybody. It's not even a midweek chat. It's an early week chat. But I'm in this beautiful part of the world here. I thought I would take advantage. I don't, even if the chat is like wandering and aimless, and I try to have a beautiful background so you can enjoy that. So, how's this, huh? So if you're ever up on, take Bob Dylan's advice and go up Highway 61 on the North Shore of Lake Superior. This is like, the highway's right there. It's like the nicest place you can get to with a 60-yard walk. Not even. It's like a 40-yard walk from my car. It's just right up there. And there's a beautiful trail that goes up there along it's the Temperance River. Then after you walk along rocks and rivers, a lot of waterfalls. Then there's just a lot of walks through the woods you can take. So earlier today I was walking through the woods up at Oberg Mountain. Glenn's got a buddy named Oberg down in Madison. I think sometimes he watches the chat, so if you enjoyed your namesake's mountain today, hope your parents are doing well in Duluth. I think it was rainy, and it's one of those trips that's like, didn't seem like it was going well, and you could sort of just resent that things aren't turning out better. But I thought to myself, hey, I got nothing to do. I got my credit card, and let's take this time to relax. So like I was hoping it wouldn't be like raining all day, so it just stopped raining, so I should be okay. But I took a hike. I brought my rain pants, and I had a raincoat, and I was just not a real long hike, a couple miles, and I got to this viewpoint overlooking Lake Superior. Could see none of it because it was all cloudy and foggy, but it was good to hear the raindrops on your raincoat hood, and I don't know, it was different. It's got its own, it's its own rare beauty, right? Everything is beautiful. Remember that song? When I was a kid, everything is beautiful in its own way. Yeah, a lot of good, happy memories from childhood music. I had a great music teacher at St. Anne's grade school, Sister Jean. She did all those pop songs with us. It was great. So anyway, that's where I am. I'm coming back tomorrow, and I thought while I was here I'd do the chat. Plus, election day is tomorrow, so golly. Mentioned a little bit about that just toward the end. I voted some weeks ago, because I knew I was coming up here. I woke up to some interesting news. So a lot of us know Archbishop Listecki, who was the Bishop of La Crosse. Bishop Listecki, before he was Archbishop Listecki, moved to when did they do that? Around 2010, 9, something like that. Anyway, he hit 75, so he submitted his letter of resignation. You never know when they're going to accept that letter. But they accepted it, and they named a new bishop. His name is Jeffrey Graub, and he's from Chicago. Do I know him? Yeah, he was my classmate in seminary. Do I know him well? Hardly at all. I hate to say it. My class had about 50 people in it, and he was a Chicago. He was studying for the Archdiocese of Chicago. He's from Cross Plains, Wisconsin, though, so I don't know if he started studying for Diocese of Madison, because Father Lindner said, why did he go to all these different seminaries? He was at St. Meinrad Seminary, he was at Josephina Seminary, then he ended up at Mundelein. He was ordained with my class, but I don't think he was with me all 4 years. I think he came in with a year or two to go. Transferred into Mundelein. Maybe he joined there. I'm not sure what the circumstances were. But, fine man, and friendly, and I don't have any insights into his personality. I imagine just from knowing him that his room was spick and span and very well ordered. He seemed to have that. He had always very neat appearance, and very, just very friendly and outgoing. And so, and then he became assigned to a church on the North Shore suburbs, Faith, Hope, and Charity, which is just south of where I did my deacon internship, so just south of Winnetka and Kenilworth. Probably one of the wealthiest areas of the Archdiocese of Chicago. So anyway, he had that, and then he was the auxiliary bishop. I called my buddy Bob, who's a priest for the Rockford Diocese. I said, "Do you remember anything about Jeff?" I don't know. And we don't. 'Cause the Chicago guys kind of hung out, kind of together. So I didn't get to know really any of the Chicago guys all that well, to be honest with you. And I'm not saying that they were cliquish or anything, because I don't think they were. I probably just wasn't as much in networking mode as I could have been, or social. But so it's kind of exciting. One of my classmates is a Archbishop of Milwaukee. That's wow. It's good. What was unusual, Bob told me though, was so when Bishop Listecki was an auxiliary bishop in Chicago, he came to be our bishop in La Crosse, and then he became the Archbishop in Milwaukee. Well, Jeff Grob was the auxiliary bishop in Chicago. Didn't have any, then he jumped right to being the Archbishop of Milwaukee. So that's kind of a big leap. You usually go from auxiliary in Chicago to maybe bishop in Belleville, Illinois, or Green Bay, and then become Archbishop of Milwaukee. But so the powers that be must think really, really highly of Jeff if he got to just jump right into the hot seat as being the Archbishop of Milwaukee. So congratulations to him. So my hike today, I'm remembering very tenderly my mother. I called her and I was able to get her, even though we're in the wilderness, because I was on kind of the top of a mountain. So it's good reception with a tower somewhere. And I hope the memory stays on this. Last time I ran out, did you notice last week's chat got cut off? I didn't get anybody that seemed to notice. So nobody made it till the end. So 8 years ago, I remember it was 8 years ago, because at night we watched the vice presidential debate between Tim Kaine and Mike Pence, and at our motel. I asked Mom once, I go, "Mom, I'm going up to North Shore, you want to come?" I did not think she would want to, but she said yes. I was like, so then I was stuck with Mom for 3 days. No, it was great, a beautiful memory. And I said, "I want to go hiking, you want to go with?" And she said, "Oh, I suppose I could go." And I thought it was a short little hike. I thought it was like, maybe a quarter mile to this loop, and then just like an eighth of a mile to this viewpoint. So this Oberg Mountain, the one I did today. So it was longer than that, and I got Mom on it, but I always thought we were almost there, so we never turned back. But by the time we finished, it was probably like easily 2.5 miles of mountain hiking. And I was just cringing, like, oh, she's going to twist her ankle, she's going to da-da-da-da. So I was being protective, but I mean, you can't go super slow if you're going to make it back before sundown on a 2.5 mile hike. But she made it, and then, she was 86. So they could call me into the jail for parent abuse, taking my mom on a 2.5 mile mountain hike when she was 86 years old. But she's tough, So anyway, I called her, and I was hoping she'd pick up, because she doesn't always pick up, and she was napping at 11:30, and I reminded her of that. I'm not sure she remembered, but it was really great to talk to her from the place. I said, "Mom, I'm so proud of you. You did this hike when you were 86 years old, and I can barely do it now, and I'm 60. So that was fun. She's doing okay, by the way. She's she's in a good place. The memory care place is good for her. She still remembers her family members and likes to go out to eat, and the day-to-day stuff she needs help with, and she's in a place where she gets it. So that's good. So doing well. And the other, not just the weather. So I knew that World's Best Donuts was closed. I checked that out in advance, and I said, rats. And then Jack and Linda Corey said that there's a new bakery that's open, has all homemade stuff. And I'm like, oh, good, I'll go there. So I went into Grand Marais last night to check, and of course it's closed on Mondays. And I don't think I'm going to drive up, because I'm about a half hour out of Grand Marais toward Duluth. So I don't think I'm going to drive back just for homemade Danish tomorrow. So I missed it because that's closed. But the Angry Trout, my favorite restaurant, closed till Friday. So I don't know if they're taking a big breather because the tourist season's over, or if it's just Friday, Saturday. Anyway, that's half the reason I come up here is for donuts and grilled fish. And so I could have just, and I did that for about 2 minutes, and I thought, nope, here I am in Grand Marais, it's beautiful. So I had fish and chips next door, and it was delicious. This afternoon I have a little desk in the motel room. It looks over the lake, and I just moved the whole table right in front of the window that overlooks the lake, and just read some articles, wrote a few things, and little chickadees flitting around and hearing the waves crash. Very pleasant. Nothing to complain about, even though the restaurant's in the rain. Do we have any parish news? Do we have any parish news? I'm not sure we do. I just got a tip, I think tonight, if I'm not entranced with my reflections and praying and have some extra time, I think I'm going to watch a Netflix movie that I heard a great review of in America Magazine. It's called The Remarkable Life of Ibelin, Ibelin, a Norwegian young man or teen who has a muscular degenerative disease, who's a gamer, plays internet games, and through that vehicle connects with people even though he can't leave his room. And it's supposed to be good, so I'm excited to watch it. I did see, and I'm hesitant to bring this up because it's one of those, seems like it's controversial in the way that social wedge issues are controversial, but I went to Conclave. Maybe you've seen it advertised a lot. And did I enjoy it? I did. I kind of a light movie. It seems pretty accurate about how you elect a pope. So if you've ever been curious about how popes are elected, it kind of shows that. A pope dies, and then they have to call all the cardinals there, and there's one guy in charge, and he's kind of the main character. Very good actors, very famous actors that are in it. Ralph Fiennes is the lead, Stanley Tucci, Jonathan Lithgow. The end is a little strange, and that's what's getting all the press. And oh look, there's a couple hikers. Like, great. It's just them and me. There's only 2 cars in the parking lot, so it's cool. Anyway, is that nice? So the end is a little strange, and I don't know. Maybe it's a good ending. Maybe it's just bizarre in a way that it didn't need to be, or I don't know what to say about it. But I enjoyed it. But I'm looking forward to this Ibelin tonight. The one I'm really looking forward to, it's called A Complete Unknown. A Complete Unknown. So I think we got Carmelita and Dan. We're going to go together. Anybody else want to make a group effort? It's about Bob Dylan, like around from 1961 to 1963, kind of those Greenwich Village years, I think, based on the coming attractions that I saw. So A Complete Unknown. There was a great PBS documentary about him called No Direction Home. Martin Scorsese did, and those are both, No Direction Home and A Complete Unknown are both lyrics from the refrain of what Rolling Stone considered the best rock and roll song of all time in a poll they did some years ago. Maybe a little self-serving because the name of their magazine is in the song, but like a rolling stone, a complete unknown, no direction home, like a rolling. So I'm looking forward to it. I like it. Thanks to my brother for tipping me off that it was coming out. Okay, we have some baptisms coming up. Maybe that's the only parish news. We got the Hunt family presents their child to us a Saturday night, and then we'll have 2 baptisms, which are very interesting. So Mitch and Becky are related to Tommy and Caitlin because Caitlin and Mitch are brother and sister, and so we're going to have immersion. So it's always nice to witness those immersion baptisms. We die with Christ, or we might rise with Him. And it's also they are each other's godparents. So even though there's 2 baptisms at the Mass, it'll still basically just be 4 adults and then some children there. So, but I'll try to ask Ann to give us the statistics, how many baptisms we had this year, because we've had a lot since as we're coming to the end of a church year, right? Last just 4 more weeks, and then it's Advent. By the way, our ecumenical Thanksgiving service will be at Good Shepherd, and I think I'm on to preach. Sometimes it's at Good Shepherd and Christine preaches, sometimes at Good Shepherd and I preach. She's a great preacher. I told her, I didn't tell her, and we thought that she was, so when I'm not there, like this morning, she had a communion service and shared the Word of God and reflection. And last week, she was planning the same thing. I didn't realize, I said I wasn't coming in because it was a funeral day. Anyway, I showed up. She thought she was doing it. I said, well, I'll preside while at Mass, but please, you prepared something, please. And I would just kind of be winging it that day. So anyway, she preached. She's just always very thoughtful and thorough in her reflection. So I appreciate that. We have such a deep pool of talent and theological background and ministry on our staff. Really a great luxury for us. So the Pope visited cemeteries on All Souls Day on Saturday in Rome, or at least he does a different cemetery every year. And this year he went to the Garden of Angels. Maybe it was within a Roman cemetery, but it was the Garden of Angels. So that is where babies and young children are buried in that cemetery. And a very special place, a place of very special, unique grief, right? And he made a comment while he was there. He said, when a spouse dies, we have a name for the survivor. We call that survivor a widow or a widower. When a parent dies of a child, you call that child an orphan. But there isn't a name when you're a parent and you experience the death of your child. And by all accounts, the hardest kind of death with the sharpest, most long-lasting grief imaginable. And obviously I haven't experienced that, but I've been a close witness because my mother experienced that when my sister died in the early 70s, and my dad. And just changes your life, right? And what Pope Francis said was, it's a very special kind of grief, and they need people who have lost a child, they need our listening ear and our time. And it's probably a bad translation of the Italian and Spanish, but he said our responsible care, which maybe is kind of not the best translation, but I kind of like it, that we're all responsible for each other. And so when you know when someone's hurting, it can be hard to be with someone in grief. And I'm not saying I'm the best at it, but I think I have learned that people pretty much appreciate it when you mention their child who's died, or when you ask, how are you doing, or does this remind you of Theodore, or does this, and if they don't, then you can just, if they recoil or something, then you can just say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be insensitive, and that's all good, But very often you hear people say, all my friends are afraid to bring it up. They don't want to make me sad, or it's just too awkward.